What up, y'all? Built this English wheel earlier this year. Had a bunch of messages and DMs asking for more specific details on material size, thickness, where I got the anvils, cost. We're gonna do a full breakdown on the entire setup and hopefully help you guys out if you wanted to build something similar yourself. It's Christmas Eve. It's freezing this morning. It's mid to low 20s in here, but bear with me on that and we'll get through it. The number one thing I get asked about this is why build one? If you've priced out English wheels, they're pretty expensive, especially when the frame size is this large. Used cast ones usually go for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 plus. There's companies like Metal Ace that make new cast iron wheels. They're $10,000 to $12,000 for a frame that size. They get expensive fast. You can use the Harbor Freight and Eastwood kits. Apparently Eastwood has some newer frames that are pretty sturdy, but a lot of the Harbor Freight and early Eastwood frames are pretty thin material. The Anvils are actually supposedly pretty decent. A lot of guys will buy a used Harbor Freight or Eastwood, take the Anvils and then build their own frame from scratch from there. But yeah, the main factor is price. All right, getting into material for the frame. It's 4x10 rectangular tubing, 3/8 wall. Massively overkill. The only reason I went this big is I found a killer deal on Facebook Marketplace. I got a 25-foot stick of that material for 300 bucks. Even though this material's way bigger than need be, I had an idea in my head on how I wanted to design the frame, and I did a quick sketch at work as soon as I found the material online just to verify that my idea would work. After my rough sketch, I did a more detailed sketch on graph paper to verify that the design would work. Went up, got the material. The guy was nice enough to cut it into 3 pieces out of a full 25-foot stick so I could get it in my truck to get home. And did 2 sketches on graph paper to scale to finalize the design. The anvils were from Trent Precision Engineering in the UK on eBay. Killer quality. They're 377 bucks last I checked, plus $125 shipping. Still the cheapest option I could find for quality anvils, and it was only 5-day shipping from the UK to me in Baltimore, Maryland, which I thought was pretty good. They come with the upper wheel, 6 lower anvils, your lower anvil cradle, the brackets for the upper wheel, and a rubber band for the upper wheel. All new bearings and everything, machined, killer. Pretty good deal, awesome guy to work with, would highly recommend that. The casters are 8-inch double locking casters, so it locks the rotation of the wheel and also locks the swivel of the caster. Carl Fisher from Make It Custom on his YouTube channel did a English wheel build. Double locking casters was one of the main things that he emphasized that you would want to get for an English wheel, and they are awesome. They were around $150 off eBay. I think they're rated for 400 or 500 pounds a piece, so they're plenty strong, they roll amazing, and they do not move when you lock them. I designed the frame to have folding legs. It's 4-inch thick rectangular tubing, so when you fold both legs in, the whole thing's about 12 inches thick. You can tuck it up flat against the wall, and it saves a bunch of space in the shop. The 4th wheel in the back of the frame is set about 3/8 of an inch off the ground. I angled the hinges on the leg a few degrees, so when you fold the legs in, the 4th wheel in the back of the frame comes down and supports the weight of the back of the frame with the legs folded. As soon as you fold the legs back out, that 4th wheel lifts back off the ground, maintains a 3-point base. There's no wobbling or teetering or anything. It's a super solid base to use while you're working with it. I had to lock them in place somehow. I ended up using 1-inch, just 120 wall tube, welded a piece to the leg, a piece to the frame, and then turned up some stainless locking pins. I threw them on the lathe, tapered them a little bit, added a little bit of style, and I ended up welding on some devil's tails. It's kind of a nod to Billy Lane from Choppers Inc. He used to make his forward controls on his choppers. He used to do devil's tails and all types of cool designs. A little bit of a nod to him, but they're full 3/16 stainless locking pins to keep the legs in place. The anvil rack I just made out of some scrap 3/8 plate, pretty simple design, welded it onto one of the legs, so the anvils are always in order on the wheel ready to use. So the headstock or quill of the wheel, the adjustment area, 4-inch square tube quarter wall. On the bottom of that, I welded on a flange that has an opening for 3-inch square tube. To make up the space inside of that and keep the 3-inch square tube square, I put polyethylene sheets on all 4 sides. Kind of keeps everything running smooth in there, guides that 3-inch tube up and down nice and smooth, keeps everything straight. The top, there's a retaining plate. I welded 4 bungs on the outside of the 4-inch tube, piece of 3/8, I believe, plate up top that I cut to match. That's the retaining plate. The main adjustment comes from a 1-inch fine threaded rod. I welded nuts on the top and bottom of the 3-inch square tube. That rod simply pulls up and down on that 3-inch tube. There's a thrust washer and bearing on the underside and top side of this retaining plate, and then the entire thing is locked in place with lock collars and bolted down to the threaded bungs on the outside of the frame. Pretty simple design, pretty crude honestly, but it works super smooth. The polyethylene sheets are replaceable if they ever do wear out, or you can drill and tap set screws on the outside to adjust tension on the polyethylene sheets if there's any slop in it. Right now it's super tight, everything works really smooth. So frame size, it's about a 41.5-inch throat depth, 45-inch throat height. A little overkill, honestly. I don't ever really plan on needing anything that big. I just like to build big, cool stuff. If I'm gonna design something, I want it to be aesthetically pleasing, and I'm a nerd for old, cool machinery and tools. So yeah, I like to kind of go big or go home, and like the buy once, cry once theory. Do it right from the first time, and it's a tool you'll keep till you die. Weight. From everything I can get online for the weight per foot, this thing's somewhere in the 650 to 700 pound range, I believe, especially with the anvils on it. It's a tank. The wheels roll incredibly smooth. It's actually pretty surprising how smooth they are. Makes it an ease to roll around the shop. I actually don't even use the folding legs, hardly at all, because it's so easy to roll. All right, so price breakdown. Like I said, cost was the main factor for this. It's $300 for the tubing, around $150, we'll say, for the casters. I can't remember the exact price. The anvils shipped were around $500. Steering wheel and various parts from McMaster-Carr for the quill and headstock was around, I would say, $200, everything total. Paint's pretty cheap. I want to say maybe 60, 70 bucks into the entire paint job. See, that adds up to about, was that $1,200 ballpark, somewhere around there. Some of the other options, there's vintage cast wheels. A lot of people they're kind of sought after. Most of those are thousands of dollars, $3-4 grand plus. Like I said, the metal ace wheels are 10 to 12 grand for one that size. Eastwood actually has some bolt together plate wheels now that look pretty stout. I think the cheapest one's around $1,200. But the frame depth, or the throat depth, is about half the size of this one. Would probably work fine for 90% of the people. But you can build things for cheaper than what you can buy them typically. The big cast wheels are just completely out of reach for a lot of hobbyists. And this one, I kind of think this one looks cooler. It's just it's a cool piece to have in the shop, even if it's not used all that much. I painted it myself. It's just farm and implement paint from Tractor Supply, Farmall or International Red. I've always liked the red and white paint scheme of the old Farmalls with the black accents. Ended up doing the flames in one shot. I actually had to paint this thing twice because the primer had a bad reaction the first go around. But I ended up doing the flames and pinstriping it myself as well, just one shot enamel. I've been pinstriping for probably 10 years on and off, just tinkering with it. But I think it turned out pretty cool. It's definitely unique, and I've never seen another wheel like it. Like I said, it's Christmas Eve. Everyone have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's. You guys have been super supportive with the Shovelhead and the Highboy and all these projects. If you have any questions about this, drop them in the comments. I'm usually pretty good about getting back to people. Hopefully this helped somebody or answered some questions for people looking to do something similar. Hopefully this inspired you to build something, get into fabricating a little bit, metal shaping. You can't learn by sitting on the couch. Just dive in head first. It's my best advice. I'm freezing, as you can probably tell from seeing my breath, so I'm gonna get the hell out of here. You guys enjoy yourselves, enjoy the holidays, stay safe. Peace.